Hello and welcome to step 28. This step is going to be a little bit different in that we're starting to pull everything together from this whole build. There's a few things that we need to discuss and probably some things for you to think about when you're doing your build. Let's get into a couple of the notes real quick and then we'll move on from there. So first off, in step 27, I lost one of the legs after the build was done because this piece fell down, so I fashioned one real quick from styrene. It's not really going to be that visible, so I'm not too worried about it, but wanted to let you guys see the change I made. The next part of it is back in step 27. It said to use parts MD11. Little photo etched ends, and they come out to be, yeah, that big, just barely bigger than the tip of the knife blade, and they are meant to go inside each of these to represent a bolt head or something like that. I've been looking it over. I'm not gonna do it. One way that it could be done, because okay, you can work with super glue. You put a dot of super glue inside there, and you can do that, it'll work, but then you put the piece in and the super glue is going to fill that other spot, so it's going to be almost like there's no indent, no detail there at all. I've seen people use lacquer varnish, you know, gloss coat or something like that, anything, and they'll put them in there. The problem is there just isn't enough clearance around that. Maybe they're supposed to be proud. I just don't see the benefit of stressing out over putting all those little pieces on there for what you're going to get out of it. I like the idea of having these small indentations there because then you can get some sort of shadowing and contrast. That's my take on that particular detail. So just wanted you aware in case you've been going through the instructions and were wondering when I was going to address that. And there I did. Next, in step 28, you're going to start seeing things where they're telling you to start applying decals again. I'm not painting this up. I'm finishing this up for somebody who's going to do the painting and the final assembly of it. So no decals are going on in all of this, just so you're aware. Next is what parts are you going to put together before painting and what parts do you want to wait until after painting? These are the kinds of questions that are really going to start being important now. Up to this point, I've kind of been keeping all the sub-assemblies separate, but we're going to have to start making some decisions. So going back to one of the previous steps, we've got the exhaust stack. That gets put on here. The photo etch bending that we did here might need to be adjusted a little bit to get everything to sit. Just be aware. And while you're adjusting, be careful how you lift this up, especially if you've added on the winches and the winch stands. But I just was looking at it a little bit. It will take a little bit of firm setup to get this to go on, but there it is. Now I am going to put this on, and then I'm going to get my glue and glue this in place as it is, rather than I'm gonna put some glue in the hole from underneath like so. And yeah, I just popped the center piece out of there with my finger while I'm doing this. So that's where I'm going to tell you that taking care while building this is important. Now this is a simple enough fix, but still, who needs that headache when you're already dealing with all the other photo etch that's going on here, especially since I'm trying to do this so that we have minimal glue markings while still maintaining the integrity of the build. I get it. Again, as I've said in the past, if it seems like this is hard, it's because it is hard. Let's not kid ourselves. But that's what makes the hobby enjoyable, is that when we accomplish something at the end, we know it's an accomplishment. Okay, so that's in. This is now glued on. One of the issues I had in dry fitting was there's no positive place for either end of this brace to attach onto here. This is supposed to tuck in on this side. This is supposed to touch down on here. But because of the way this is set up, it looks a little odd as such. But you can put it down a little bit underneath that bolt, or put it up. I'm going to put it up a little bit higher, right there on the edge, so right here on the corner. Like so. Like so. Just to get it started. I may have to come back and visit it again. These things happen, but if I really wanted to get this to sit nice and flat, I want this right there. So that means that it's, and I'm going by flat on the bottom of that, right here, so that it's not at some sort of a strange angle. And there's just enough room up in here. So just in the interest of making this solid, I've got this glued in, and it's touching the plastic on this side and the photo etched on this side. This is just this little strip of plastic right in here where I've glued it. So that at least gets that done. Now we've got to go through and take a look at this. This gets glued, and this is a little off. You can see here, this isn't going to fit. Oh, what's going on? That's because it gets glued on this side without any positive trim around it at all. It's going to look a little odd because it's just there. I'm not sure in real life. I haven't looked at the references if this is like tack welded on the back or if it's sandwiched and they got the part wrong, but that's what you're being asked to do, is just glue this to the back side. So I'm going to pre-position this as best I can, so it's about even, because that should give me, so you do get just enough material across it. But that's the problem, is that it's just so lightweight. Is that even just putting the glue on, there's enough tension to pull that. And so just put a little glue on, let a little capillary action start pulling that through. What I'm most concerned about is making sure that everything looks square. I know in real life it probably isn't perfect, but I want this to look nice. These screens and grills and things of that nature do tend to draw the eye. There. Now that it's kind of set, I can just run the glue. Get that set. Now, again, because of the nature of how I'm doing my work and what I'm doing it for versus those of you building at home, I'm not going to want to glue that on there, because as soon as that gets glued on and I need to put these other parts beyond this kind of sandwiches in between and on top of these two guardrails. You can see right here, it's going to push down to that, so it'll be partially, I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. I guess I'll decide when we do the next video whether I want this on top or not, because it's going to be delicate, but I've got this here as well. Probably not going to be a problem. Anyways, at this point in time, you'd be attaching it to the frame right here, as we'll show. The cab is already on, but essentially you're putting it right back in this area. I don't want to do that right now. And then you would take this continuation of the exhaust pipe and run that underneath the cab is going to be part of it, and then this goes right up underneath there, which would be it pointing this way. It goes right up underneath there and then into the back of the cab. And I have dry fit it and everything works fine. So once you're at that point, that's good. But again, here's that part I was showing you earlier that's attached underneath here, and things are getting delicate. This is an incredible build for the amount of detail and the amount of work. When you may, I'll say this right now, you may be had complained about the expense of the kit in the past. You're getting your money's worth out of it. This is a very detailed kit. Next up is going to be the support and bracket for the weight placard that's on a vehicle. And what they are having you do is here's your piece, if I can pick it up. And you've got the bolt detail on this face. Now on this side you can see there's a little bit of etching right there for curving. And you want to match up with this right here. So I just put this in. I'm just being careful. I'm letting it bend wide because that's what it looks like. And then I'm going to hold this up and match it to see if it matches or if the angle is too great. Yeah, the angle is too great. So, just going to bend that angle back to about like that. Now, at this point in time, I am going to let this sit. I have not decided with that either. Do I want to attach that along with MC6? I think what I'm leaning towards is I will attach MC6 to this piece here. That should be fine. And I just don't know if I want to put that on the hood or not just yet. But I'll get to that with the next video. I'll take a little time to do that. Ignore the blue circle. That's from the last video. Now we're moving on to these brackets, these pieces down here. I'm not exactly sure what these are for, but they get attached to the vehicle itself. I think they're stabilizing arms. And then J30. Now J30 has jagged teeth on one side and they're flat on the other. You want those teeth to go away from the opposite end. Oh, sorry. You want the teeth to face away from the opposite end. So, like that. And that's pretty much. You're going to have to kind of orient it compared to the scene right here. Looks like, yeah, sometimes you wish you had 10 hands. Looks like it goes this way. So teeth out that way against this, like that general shape. And if I'm reading this correctly, we do two in the exact same way. So that's just a little bit of glue. And put the part on. Again, I'm making sure that the slotted or the roughness of the teeth is pointing in that direction. Got it on. Add a little bit more glue to get in the seams. And that should be good. Now, just because of the nature of wrapping all of this around, I do not want to... now, I'm going to do this one right here without having glued it before. I'm just going to attach or put on some glue like that. So that's possible. The problem is that the glue may run and then you end up getting it stuck in your whatever you're using to secure it. But anyways, I've got the two supports. I want that to dry up a little bit, considering the fact that they're going back to back. And while we're waiting for that to dry, these are the mounting brackets right here that'll need to be folded. These are the plastic hinge pieces, if you will. And now I've also got Photo Etch piece MD5, and this is a handle. For whatever reason, I've only got one instead of two on the Photo Etch fret. So I'm also going to have to look into potentially making another one for the side of this. So while I'm looking into all of that stuff, and these are drying, I'm going to sign off, and we'll come back for the second half of this, do the other parts of the Photo Etch, and I'll give you some answers on what's going to happen with these other pieces. But at least up to this point, we should be good. And see you for a second part.